What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Bull, Season 2, Episode 10, Home for the Holidays, Episode 11, Survival Instincts, and Episode 12, Gray Area. So, yeah, let's talk about these three episodes. One episode definitely stands out just a little bit more for me, and for a very good reason, because it's something I've been asking for since almost the beginning of this show. So, first, let's start off with the Christmas episode, Home for the Holidays. Pretty standard, I'd say, Christmas episode for any, especially CBS show. It's got the heartfelt moments. It's got all like the family moments, and it's got the oh, can't be about greed this time of year type of thing going on. Pretty much basic story. Little girl tries to leave her family because her mom died and her dad isn't doing a very good job of taking care of her, and so she doesn't really like him, and so she tries to get somebody else to take care of her. She goes into Dr. Bull's office and says, I want to divorce my parents." So yeah, it's kind of one of those things where little kid doesn't really understand what's going on and is a little too naive to understand that her father is just not handling the situation well. Some therapy, counseling probably would have done a world of wonders, but Bull doesn't understand that the mom died. He just thinks that the dad is not doing a good job and has no good reason other than the fact that he's working all the time. So he goes to a judge and tries to talk to the judge about, hey, look, something's not going right here. And the judge says, well, maybe she just needs a guardian to step in and say something, and since you already know the case, you'd be perfect for it. And then after that, that's when Bull realizes, oh, the mom died, and it's just been very hard for the father, and he hasn't really handled the situation well. So it doesn't necessarily need to be the father's a bad person, it's just things haven't gone well. And I think that's probably the best part about this episode, is they didn't turn the father into a bad guy. That could have been very easy to do. Just, oh, look at him, leaving his daughter all alone, and he's a horrible person. No, his wife died, and he didn't handle the situation properly. Everybody's dealt with something along those lines at some point, not handling a situation well. And so I'm glad that they took it that way instead of just making him a horrible person. Um, but there's a big problem with this episode, and that is they made the little girl a little too psychotic is almost the right word, but it's not quite the right word. She's not like a total psychopath, but yeah, she's not quite right. And what I mean by that is I think if they had just made her a little girl who misunderstood the situation and wanted to leave her dad because she was hurt by him, I think that would have worked fine. But they did make her a little, like, conniving. She's very manipulative. She tries to board a plane at the beginning of the episode to leave for England by herself. That's going a little too far. In the courtroom, whenever her father's on stand, and the little girl's lawyer is like ripping into him and being like, well, who's her best friend? Did you read her favorite book? What's her favorite book? And all of that stuff, and he's not knowing all the answers. She's like looking up at Bull. She's like, he doesn't know. Okay, she wasn't doing the hand thing, but she might as well have been. The smile that she had was like so evil and dastardly. It's like she wanted this all to happen. The babysitter, the nanny, comes to Bull because she was assigned as her legal guardian until they could figure this all out. She comes to Bull, she's like, I can't do it. She's got everything twisted around her little finger. And I'm like, are we going to go with she's just crazy? Is that what we're doing? Like, this little girl is conniving and evil and she's trying to manipulate her father. But by the end of the episode, the father comes to pick her up from school because Bull wasn't able to make it and the nanny tried to pass it off to him. And so her father comes and picks her up and she's all like, yeah, I just want my dad. That's all I've ever wanted. I'm just like, wait, but what about all the little evil stuff that you were doing? The evil little smile when your dad was being torn into and you seemed like you really hated him. What was all of that? Was I just reading the situation wrong? Was it just bad directing, maybe? I don't know. It was kind of bizarre. But yeah, they had this little lesson at the end of it where Bull goes to the courthouse with them to sort of fix this situation. The case that he's been working on for this entire episode, which is a big money case. They have to solve the case before Christmas. They think they've got it all figured out. And then they get there and he's trying to help them reconcile. But then the guy who's Bull's been working for is like, if we don't have you, you and your team are off the case. And that's when Bull's just like, yeah, whatever, it's Christmas. Here's some stuff that'll help you win the case, but if you don't want my team, that's fine. Merry Christmas to you. So, I don't know, some last minute moral to sort of wrap up the episode. So it wasn't bad. I do like the little moral. I did like the scene at the end where Bull goes in dressed as Santa to be there for the daughter and the father. Goes up to the daughter's like, ho ho ho, I got some presents. She's like, don't tell I know it's you, but don't tell my dad. He still believes in this stuff. So it was a very sweet scene to wrap it up. And most Christmas episodes are very nice, but that little girl just, I think they went a little too far with her. It was kind of bizarre throughout most of the episode. Get on to the next one, Survival Instincts, an episode that I've seen quite a few times in several shows. The whole Stockholm Syndrome. Somebody gets taken, they start to develop feelings for their captors, and then this girl who was taken at 16, 18 months later, she ends up robbing a store with the guy who took her, and she thinks that he loves her, and she thinks that she loves him. And so it kind of just goes back and forth. Bull is trying to convince her that she's wrong, that she's blinded. She doesn't want to hear it. She's blaming her mom for all of this. And then eventually the DA, who's a total just douchebag, Bull and Benny go to him and say, look, clearly there's something wrong here. She will testify against him, but you've got to drop this case against her. And so he offers that deal to her captor, which he of course takes, because why wouldn't he? And so they go through this whole thing where they try to convince the girl that she's not alone. Her friends are there for her. And so they bring all of her friends from school to the courtroom, and that's when she decides, okay, I'm willing to take the stand against him. So they go through all of this, but ultimately there's one guy who doesn't want to acquit her. Everybody else in the jury is fine, but one guy doesn't. And so because it's not unanimous, it's a mistrial, they have to do it again. Big problem with that is they never explain why. They never explain why this one guy is against her. Maybe I missed something. Maybe at the beginning of the episode when they were talking about the jurors they were selecting, maybe that one guy was the odd one out, possibly. But yeah, I just find it bizarre that they didn't go into some sort of psychological reason why he didn't. But ultimately, Benny and Bull did manage to talk to the DA, or I think it was just Bull, and convince him to drop the charges against her so they didn't have to do it again. And on top of that, she's willing to testify for them against the guy who took her. And it was a very nice scene because he's sitting there saying, I'm not blind. 11-1 for acquittal. I mean, that is something that I have to take into account. And on top of that, the fact that she's willing to testify, I'm willing to drop the case against her. So I thought it was a very nice scene for him to sort of get redemption. But ultimately, it sort of does end a little bit weird because she's back home, she's with her mom, and it seems like a very sweet scene. They're together, but they're holding on the scene a little too long, and Bull's not walking in to help or anything. I'm just like, what's going on here? Is this going to be like some sort of twist ending? And so the mom closes the door. She's like, I just want to sleep. And so she leaves, and all of a sudden, like, this ominous music starts playing. And then she turns on the laptop, and then it ends. What? Like, what? I'm a little confused. Just, I don't know what they're going for there. I don't know if they're saying, oh no, she's getting back on the internet, like it's a dangerous place, clearly, because she was taken. I don't know if they're trying to say, oh, she manipulated everybody. She even manipulated that guy, to... I don't know. I don't know what they were going for there. It seemed like such a bizarre ending and no explanation. No sort of like, oh, this is obviously what happened. No message box. Maybe pop up a message between her and him where she says, I'd like to be with you, and I'd like to help you rob store. I don't know. No anything. She just turns on the laptop and then it cuts off with like this ominous build-up music. What? So I don't know. Maybe that'll come back into play. Maybe they're just trying to say, oh no, she's going back on the internet and it's a dangerous place on the internet and stuff. It wasn't very clear. I thought it was poorly executed. But then we get to this last one, episode 12, Gray Areas. And this is where I was very, very happy. An old friend of Bull's calls him up because one of his clients, who was just recently fired, he went and killed the people that just fired him. And we see a scene at the beginning where he's talking to the doctor and he's saying, I can't believe they fired me. I just want to kill them. He's like, well, let's come up with a plan here. And then the next scene, he's going into the office, which it was a very well shot scene. I don't normally say this about like kind of bouncing cam, but I don't know. They did a very good job of making the camera bounce in rhythm with his walk. And so it looked like he wasn't moving, but everything around him was bouncing up and down. It was very focused on him. I don't know. It was very cleverly done. And I don't normally say that about this show, but the camera work there was brilliant. But anyway, so he goes in, shoots the two people that fired him, and now the widows of the two men are suing the doctor, thinking that he was responsible. He's an old friend of Bull's, so he calls him in and says, "Look, I need your help." And so they go through this whole thing where trying to prove that he's not responsible. But ultimately, Bull realizes that he has feelings for one of the women. And then they find out the gun that was used to kill them. And Bull realizes it's a gun that he used to own that his friend bought after he left because of protection and stuff like that. And all of a sudden he started to get these little inklings of something. He goes to confront him, and that's when his friend is like, "Don't you believe in destiny? That's what this was. When he came to me with a problem and I knew the name, I knew it was destiny." And so, of course, I told him to go kill the man. I'm just like, what? Like, it was just so out of left field at the time, because it seemed like throughout most of the episode, the team's talking about, oh, Benny's doing a great job, and it seemed like it was just like any other episode. They were going to help his friend out, and things were going to go okay. And then just all of a sudden, about halfway through the episode, it's revealed that he actually did order the kid to go shoot him. He actually is guilty of it. I'm just like, holy crap. What a twist. It was brilliantly planned because it just sort of came out of left field. It seemed like they were building up for every other episode, and that's what made it such a good twist. And so ultimately, Bull, I've been asking this, what happens when they find out that their client is actually guilty? What would they do? Well, Bull, he decides not to say anything. First of all, client-attorney privilege, so he can't legally say anything. But on top of that, he can't say anything to Benny because he knows Benny has to put up a good defense. He can't say anything to the rest of his team because they've got to feel like nothing's wrong. Or if they did, then they would try to do something. They would try to affect the trial. They would try to drop the case, which they legally cannot. And so, yeah, it's kind of a pickle, but ultimately they go through with the trial. It ends very abruptly too, and that's what I thought was very well done about this, is they didn't drag it out and see like Bull trying to say something. No, he just sits there in silence as everything keeps falling their way. Oh, it's all green here, Bull. Oh, things are going great. Oh, Benny's killing it today. All these things that in any other episode would be like, yes, oh, all green, awesome. Oh, Benny's awesome today. Because we know what's going on, because Bull knows what's going on. It's almost like a gut punch. Every single time something's going well. Oh, it's all green here, Bull. Why is it all green? Oh, Benny's killing it. Stop it, Benny. It hurts in this episode because you know that the client is actually guilty. You know that all of this is actually helping a guilty man get free. And so I'm wondering, because it can't end on that type of note. It's not like they can just be like, oh yeah, we helped a guilty man. Woo! Case closed. Move on to the next episode. I knew they couldn't do it like that. I knew there had to be some way that they still got back at him. But I wasn't sure how they were going to handle it. Well, Bull goes to one of the widows that his friend was saying he got the man killed for, to be with her. He goes to her and says, why, if you wanted to be together, why sue him? Why would you do that? And ultimately he realizes she didn't have any part of it. It was all his delusion that they wanted to be together forever. And so that's when he sees an opportunity to use her to kind of get on recording that he says, hey, I'm responsible for this. And so she calls him up, offers him to go to dinner with him, and of course he jumps at the opportunity. And so they just have this kind of intense scene where he's questioning her a little bit, and she's saying what Bull's wanting her to say. Danny and Chunk are there just in case things get out of hand. And so ultimately he finally reveals, hey, don't thank him, thank me. I'm the one that told him to kill him. And she starts to have a little bit of an episode. Danny and Chunk step in to make sure she doesn't get hurt. And then he ends up in jail, and so Bull gets to gloat a little bit at the end. Goes to prison to visit and say, hey, got you some chips. Unfortunately, that's all they would let me bring in here, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, it was a brilliant way to sort of end off this episode with them getting back at him, ending what was going on. And of course the guy's like, I'm going to sue you. And he's like, so what are you going to sue me for? The fact that I told her about that? Well, even if you do, you only get a little bit of money out of me in prison? It doesn't change the fact that you still were found guilty. You still committed the crime. And so, I don't know, I thought it was a brilliant episode. I thought finally getting to tackle this issue of helping somebody who's guilty. A guilty client comes to you, you accept it, and then you go to court and realizes, oh crap, I'm actually helping a guilty man. That's difficult. It's not an easy answer, and ultimately it wasn't for Bull. He didn't have an instant, okay, here's what I need to do. No, he sat there and didn't know what to do. He was confused, he was troubled. His best friend, on top of that, makes it even more like that just ups the stakes even more. The fact that it was somebody he knew from when he first started all of this, when he first started doing the psychological stuff, that makes it even more challenging and something even harder to deal with. And so that's why I'm glad that they did do that. It would have been one thing to just have, oh, guilty client comes in, they don't know he's guilty, and all of a sudden find out, oh, he is guilty. What do we do now? But to make it's one of Bull's friends, that just ups the stakes even more. And I think that made it really overall a brilliant episode. So I fully enjoyed the last one. The one in the middle was a little bit predictable, something I've seen before, and on top of that ended on an ominous note that ultimately didn't lead anywhere. And then the first one was just a heartfelt Christmas episode that had a creepy little girl with some weird direction. But yeah, 3 episodes that were really good, and now I'm officially caught up until tonight, and then I won't be caught up anymore, because, yes, I'm so far behind. But yeah, so that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these past 3 episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Bull episodes. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.